One of these companies made 37 times more revenue per employee than the other. This one is a Finnish mobile game studio that made Clash of Clans. And the other one is Alibaba, China's premier tech giant with dozens of companies packed into its all-in-one super apps. And it all came down to how these companies decided to architect their software, triggering a radical structural revolution that built the empire, nearly destroyed it, and forced a multi-billion-dollar rewrite of their entire engineering infrastructure. The shift started in 2015 when Jack Ma took a trip to Finland to visit the gaming studio Supercell, the creators of Clash of Clans. He was stunned to find that Supercell's tiny 5-person teams were shipping code faster than the thousands of developers at Alibaba. Supercell's secret? They shifted all the heavy lifting into a massive shared infrastructure engine, leaving the 5-person teams to just write the unique game logic. Jack Ma looked back at Alibaba and saw the exact opposite. By 2015, Alibaba had exploded into over 25 distinct business units, including Taobao, Tmall, and AliExpress. They were organized in what Chinese engineers called Chimney Architecture. Every single business unit was its own isolated smokestack, built from the scratch top to bottom. The redundancy was absurd. When Tmall spun off into its own division, its engineers built a parallel tech stack that completely duplicated Taobao's infrastructure. Alibaba ended up running completely separate login systems, separate shopping carts, and separate product catalogs, all doing the exact same job, but managed by entirely separate teams. This completely killed their agility. A simple company-wide change like a new coupon format couldn't just be deployed once. It had to be rebuilt from scratch by every single business unit. Even worse, their data was completely siloed. A user shopping on both Taobao and Tmall looked like two completely different strangers because the databases couldn't talk to each other, completely blinding Alibaba's recommendation algorithms. To pull off the agile strategy he saw at Supercell, Jack Ma needed to rip down these chimneys. The plan was simple: shrink Alibaba's massive isolated teams into those tiny fast units and shift all their redundant infrastructure into a single massive shared engine. They called this central layer the Zhongtai, the middle end. Think of the Zhongtai as a simple operating system for the entire company. Individual apps are no longer isolated products with their own separate brains. They are just lightweight interfaces plugging into the exact same central engine. But if you're an engineer, alarm bells should be going off. In the West, we handle these core capabilities by breaking them out into completely independent microservices, giving each team its own isolated database and absolute autonomy. The Zhongtai did the exact opposite. It jammed all of those disparate industries into a single massive centralized data and logic core. In the West, we keep different business domains strictly isolated because their data requirements are completely different. A retail platform tracking global shipping containers needs completely different ways of structuring and updating data than a hyperlocal delivery app tracking a moped in real time. The codebases never mix those two worlds up. The Zhongtai completely ignored that rule. It forced every single app into an empire to share the exact same database models and core logic. By tying all these different businesses to one single foundation, everything became completely synchronized and completely locked together. At first, the payoff was incredible. New services were spun up in weeks instead of years. In China's world of super apps, where retail, food delivery, and travel all live inside the same single ecosystem, unifying the data gave Alibaba's recommendation algorithms a literal god mode upgrade. If a user bought an electric hot pot on Taobao, the grocery delivery tab right next to it could instantly flash a discount on fresh sliced beef. But this absolute synchronization hit a trap. To protect the middle end from a single catastrophic bug, Alibaba created a separate corporate division to safeguard the code, the middle office department. This is where Conway's law struck back. The law states that simple truth: the structure of your software will always mirror the bureaucracy of your organization. The system built to kill bureaucracy became the ultimate bottleneck. If the food delivery team wanted to add a single custom feature to their checkout page, they couldn't just ship it. They had to pitch it to the middle office team, queue behind 25 other divisions, and wait weeks for a rigid safety audit to prove their code wouldn't accidentally break the flagship e-commerce platform. This is where Alibaba took the exact wrong lesson from Supercell. Supercell's shared core worked because it only handled the universal plumbing that every single game needs, like account logins, payment processing, and database infrastructure, leaving the 5-person teams to just write the unique game logic. At Alibaba, the shared core consumed the business logic too. Developers at Alibaba were trapped in endless review cycles. The individual teams lost all autonomy and agility. While Alibaba's teams were stuck in months of alignment meetings just to modify a database, a hyper-aggressive competitor named Pinduoduo was moving at light speed, with no centralized middle end and to slow them down. Pinduoduo shipped features in days and completely tore into Alibaba's market share. The panic inside the company became so undeniable that in November 2023, the exact week Pinduoduo's market value overtook Alibaba's, Jack Ma broke years of silence. He posted a rare message on the company's internal forum, congratulating their rival and warning his own employees that all great companies are born in winter. The central engine had basically choked the life out of the company's growth. So in 2023, Alibaba blew the whole thing up. To save their agility, Alibaba didn't just tweak the system, they immediately ousted their global CEO and shattered the entire empire into 6 autonomous divisions, handing the keys to 6 independent CEOs. This massive restructuring killed the monolithic middle office, but instead of returning to the old isolated silos, they evolved the blueprint into what is now called the fast Zhongtai. Now, instead of one massive shared engine for the whole company, each of the 6 business groups got its own smaller vertical middle layer. Similar apps still share a core. Taobao and Tmall shared an e-commerce fast Zhongtai because their business models are nearly identical. But the local food delivery app runs on a completely different middle layer with its own isolated codebase. So, if the databases are completely split up, how does the super app feel like one connected ecosystem? How does that instant recommendation trick still work? In the West, independent apps keep their data strictly isolated, syncing profiles in the background through slow overnight data syncs. But a Chinese super app can't tolerate that isolation. The secret is a foundational engine called OneID. Instead of forcing the apps to share actual code, they only share a single real-time map of user behaviors. The second you buy that electric hot pot on the e-commerce tab, that data instantly updates your global profile within milliseconds. The completely separate food delivery app running on its own independent codebase reads that profile and slaps down the discount on fresh beef before you even need to switch screens. But there was one last huge change. While the different verticals like e-commerce and delivery were now separated, each vertical still had a dedicated middle-end team, which still caused the same bureaucratic friction as before. So they decided to make each vertical a product-led team where everyone had access to the full stack. They still use the same middle-end architecture, but now each vertical had their own autonomy instead of relying on a separate team to make changes. Alibaba finally found the balance, the agility of isolated startups, but with the massive data pool of a tech giant. Because at the end of the day, the best architecture isn't the most elegant one on paper, it's the one that actually lets your team ship code.